right there, Jesus is like, my daughter, I'm going to tell you how to rescue souls. This is exactly what I'm looking for, right? And so he just proceeds, you will rescue more souls through prayer and suffering. St. Louis de Montfort, huge proponent of the Rosary, says it does have the power to convert the most hardened sinners. St. John of the Cross, he said, in the evening of our life, we will be judged on love alone.
Has there been a moment where you're like, wow, this is really, really tough. I don't know how I'm going to get through this.
Well, I mean, for me, probably
This one is one of the most powerful because it brings you tangible ways that we can actually bring souls back into the church and back to Christ. Welcome to the Catholic Woman Podcast, the show where we as Catholic women navigate the modern world together. I'm your host, Marie Hanson. Today, we are going to be chatting about loving our prodigals, those people who have fallen away from Christ, from the Catholic Church. And I actually don't know a single Catholic whose life this has not touched. There is someone in their life who they care about who is either fallen away or is not Catholic or not religious at all. And it creates some deep wounds. So I think this is going to be a fantastic conversation today. I'm very excited. But before I introduce you to our guest, I've meant to mention this the past few shows and I've totally forgotten. I'm doing this new thing where if you don't want to, like, if there's a show that you're loving and you're like, oh, I wish I could take a note on that, I'm just going to be having a free download that recaps every show for you in the show notes. It'll be totally free. So if you are like, wow, I love this, go sign up. It'll be in the show notes, totally free. It'll recap the whole show for you. And then once you sign up, you will get every show's recap. It'll just kind of be in a Google Drive folder that you'll have access to. So if you sign up today, you can get access to the previous shows. If there's one that you have wanted like a couple weeks ago that you're like, oh, I would love the recap on that, go sign up. You can find all the shows. It'll be in that Google Drive there. And just so excited to offer this new free resource to you guys to kind of just help you continue to live out what we talk about in this podcast beyond just the hour that you're listening to the show. Have something that you can quick reference in your life when you need a quick like refresher on something that you had listened to but maybe had forgotten, or there's a moment that comes up months later where you're like, ooh, I remember I had heard this. This will be an easy way to quick reference that. So that will be in the show notes for you guys. All right, so I want to introduce you to Kristine. Kristine Bruce is the founder of Praying for Our Prodigals, which is a place of hope and community for Catholics praying for their loved ones who have left the church. Through weekly reflections and resources, she helps families find strength in prayer, peace in God's timing, and encouragement to keep moving forward with faith. So Kristine, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. And like I said in the intro, this is something that really does touch every single Catholic that I know. So before we dive into logistics, I just would love to hear a little bit about you. How did you get into this work and how did you found this apostolate?
Yeah, so I'm a cradle Catholic. Thanks be to God. I'm so grateful for that. I've been married, a lot of years, 30 some years, and have 5 grandchildren, couple in-laws, couple grandkids. So I've been very blessed and so grateful. However, along the way, my husband and I, even though our families, we both came from families that were raised Catholic, siblings, nieces, nephews, just so many relatives and friends who have left the church and fallen away from the church. And it just, it was kind of hard for us to comprehend because my husband is also cradle Catholic. And so one thing led to another where I was like, okay, I really need some answers here, and just started looking for answers. And the long story, we'll just get right into it, is that one day I was reading the Magnificat, that's that, magazine booklet that people get with the mass readings in it. That was back in 2018. And it was a passage, there's your reflections. And so it was a passage where Jesus was talking to St. Faustina. And I'm very pragmatic. Like, I was looking for, okay, what do we do? What do we, and right there, Jesus is like, my daughter, I'm going to tell you how to rescue souls. I was like, oh my gosh, like what? Like, this is exactly what I'm looking for, right? And so he just proceeds, you're going to rescue more souls. You will rescue more souls through prayer and suffering. And so I was just like, okay, and so it was longer than that, the passage. And I just kept praying over that and praying over that. Took it to a few people, I was like, wow, what do you think? And so I looked around. I really didn't want to start an apostolate. And so I was like, surely somebody's already doing something and I can just join them and support them. But no, the Holy Spirit was really calling me to start something. So yeah, so that's kind of how it started. I talked to my best friend, spiritual director, the priest. I'm kind of like, what do you think? What do you think? Got some feedback, prayed about it a lot. And then that's the motto we came up with is pretty much what we still do. It's I lead a Wednesday rosary group, anyone can call in, and then an email on Friday just to kind of like, hey, little tap on the shoulder, like I'm here for you, we're all in this together, group fasting, et cetera, et cetera. But that's kind of long, a medium-sized story for you, but that's how it got
Yeah.
started.
Don't you
Yeah.
just love when the Holy Spirit drops something in your lap and you're like, really? Why me? Like, really? Like, come on. You're like, I
Oh,
just pick someone else. But no,
yeah, yeah.
God knows that you would be the perfect one for that work, but sometimes we don't want to do it. So I
We
understand
I
that.
yeah, that's exactly how I was like, surely someone's out there doing it. And there were books written, but
Yes.
nobody I didn't personally find. Now maybe there was out there, but I
Mhm.
didn't personally find anyone that was doing something like ongoing weekly. So
Yes, very interesting. So, okay, so let's talk about that and what St. Faustina said. She's my confirmation student. I love the
mhm.
Diary of St. Faustina. It's very rich, and I know. Well, at the time this is coming out, it's later, but it was recently Divine Mercy Sunday. A few weeks ago. We're recording this on Pentecost, and there's just so much there. And you said what Jesus says to her is through praying and suffering, which we're often told, fasting and obviously offering up the sufferings that our life, gives us for conversion of souls is huge. And you hear all the time praying, fasting. But I don't think most people realize how spiritually powerful the combination of those two things can be. So, can you talk a little bit about that? And what do you guys do for the people who have fallen away from the faith or, just loved ones who were never Catholic or Christian even to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I try to I've kind of gone through seasons on the fasting thing. We always do a communal fast on Friday. I encourage it. People can choose to
Yeah.
join, but a communal fast is right. The Bible tells us there's a lot of power in communal fasting, especially in the Old Testament. So I do talk about that. And then as well as like, I do tell people, not everyone is called to extreme fasting or extreme
Mhm.
suffering and, whipping your back or sleeping on, rocks. Like not everyone is called to that, but I do believe everyone can do something.
Mhm.
Like everyone can do something, even if it's leaving that last bit of food on your plate, or
Mhm.
whatever, that last bite. So I do believe that. And, because the thing is, God in his generosity, I don't understand all his ways, but I do know that like he can save souls without our participation. But because he wants us to participate, this is the way we do it through prayer
Mhm.
and suffering, sacrificing. Um, so, I one of the things that I did, like it's kind of crazy and people always laugh, but I had a particular person that I wasn't getting the results I wanted. And not that this is magic, right? Like I do always want to
Mhm.
make sure people know this is not magic, but when God calls us to something and we do our best to be obedient, he's gonna help, right?
Mhm.
And help us. So anyway, I had heard this story about a woman who gave up chapstick and her friend, came back in a few months later. And because she's like, oh yeah, every time I felt like putting on chapstick, I prayed for her conversion. So I was seriously my whole life addicted to lip gloss and Carmex. Like I started in high school with Carmex and, yeah. So anyway, super addicted. Like I had lip gloss everywhere, everywhere, literally everywhere. And so I'm like, okay, it's time, and I did that. And it was crazy because I thought it'd be like, oh, every time. No, it was all the time. All the time. Like I'm like, okay, I joke. I'm like, I think if dry lip syndrome is a thing, I had it. Like that if you can be diagnosed. So anyway, so yeah, so I gave up chapstick and lip gloss probably in like over 2 years. I probably wore lipstick at all for, like attending a wedding like a few times. Um,
Mhm.
so anyway,
Wow.
but thanks be to God, that person did come back. And so,
Wow.
you can see I'm wearing lip gloss. I still wear it now. I can wear that, but I'm not as addicted as I was. I have control.
Yes.
but that's like just one thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, like
Mhm.
I didn't give up eating for weeks on end, you know?
Mhm.
I just did something that I was like, okay, like every time, you know, just
Mhm.
throughout the day, Lord, you know, Lord, like it. And so I guess that's my thing on the suffering. Like not everyone is called to extreme
Mhm.
suffering, you know, but everyone can do something.
Yeah.
I do believe that.
Yeah, well, I agree. I feel like most of us are not going to be called to the extreme suffering that we see in like some of the crazy saint examples, but there are ways so many of us can, do these little fasts or give things up in our life and break these addictions and not even like when I say addictions, I don't mean drug or alcohol addictions, but like an addiction to chapstick or to me something I've been really working on is like snacking, and so one way I've countered that is not eating until this point and like there's ways that we can really work on detaching from the things that have just become autopilot for us and we don't even realize that. So I love your chapstick example because I think beyond, praying and sacrificing for souls to come back to the faith, that's just a good spiritual practice and something. One way that we can all grow in virtue is to find these things in our lives that have a hold on us that we don't even realize have a hold on us and work towards breaking free from them. So that is so beautiful. So we talked about the fasting, but what are some other practical things Catholic women can do for loved ones besides arguing with or nagging them about their faith? Because I know, for me at least, I love a good debate with someone, and not even just like about the faith, that too, but like I love intellectual conversations. I love playing devil's advocate. Even when I agree with something, I'll often just argue the flip side just for fun because I like to kind of like have that dialogue and see both sides of things. But that's definitely not for everyone. For some people, I do believe, and I'm sure you've seen their conversions or reversions will be through intellect and education and realizing, oh, actually, this is the one true faith, through study of history or whatever. But for many people, I'd say most people, that's probably not the case. And arguing with them or bringing all these different, points up about why it's right or why their faith is wrong is not the best route to go. So, how would you recommend people have these conversations? How do you, nudge people towards the Catholic faith without pushing them too far?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And, you know, I've been doing this like 7 to 8 years now. And so, um, and I kind of stay in my lane. You know, there are people out there in apologetics who talk about, you know, how to talk to people about the faith. And I think that's good. Like we need to know our faith and we need to know what the church
Mhm.
teaches. Now, the church is so vast, we can't know everything, but we can know the
Yeah,
basic
no
fundamentals.
way.
And
Yes.
yeah, and we can know the basics, right? And we know the questions
Yes.
that typically come up. Okay.
Mhm.
And we should know those. Okay, so I think I like to divide it kind of into two people. You've got your siblings, maybe adult children, um, parents, spouse, you know, relatives. Let's just say relatives.
Mhm.
It's been my experience, they typically are not the people we're going to be able to convert. You know, like those
Mhm.
are the people that I do a more behind the scenes approach. We'll come back to that. But then
Interesting.
the other people, like non relatives, coworkers, you know, people on your baseball team, you know, things like that, that may be more open to you because you're not a relative and they don't have that long term relationship,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Like for example, my son was able to help a coworker back, just like in random, you know, they're at the water
Mhm.
cooler or whatever, comes up, he's fallen away Catholic, and my son's like, hey, you know, why aren't you going to mass? And he's like, well, once I get my life in order, you know, I'll come back. I just need to get some things in order. And my son was like, well, seems like for most people, if you come back to mass, your life will get into order.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you know, and so he did. Like he went to confession, like
Wow.
came back and brought his wife back too. Well, she was a convert. So, you know, it's like it's those kind of
Mhm.
conversations. That's where people need to know the faith, I think. Back to
Mhm.
our relatives. That's where I'm more like, let's work behind the scenes. Um, Yeah, and I came up with 4 pillars over the time of writing about this and reading about this. Um, it's kind of I saw it like this, like, okay, you know how like if you buy a car, like, you know, Honda Accord, gray Honda Accord, and then you buy that car, and then the next thing you know, like everywhere you go, you see these the same as that car, gray
Yeah.
Honda
Yeah.
Accord, you know? Well, that's how it
Yes.
was when I was starting this. Like, I'm just reading books constantly, Catholic books. The Catholic faith is my favorite thing to talk about and to read about. And so I would
Mhm.
just be reading any book. about the Catholic faith. And there would be something about it like, oh, this is what you need to do to convert souls. And this is what you need. Like, it was just like God was just like putting it out there, right, for me.
Mhm.
And so I came up with these 4 pillars that I do: trust, pray, sacrifice, love. Okay. So then we
Mhm.
can get into those more. So it's more,
Yes.
my lane, I feel like my calling is the behind the scenes, under the table, you know, trusting God, um, and letting Him do His work. Like, He knows best how to change the hearts of our relatives better than we do.
Mhm.
Now, if you are going to talk to somebody, whether it's relative or non-relative, I would recommend 2 things. One, pray about it first, right? Ask the Holy Spirit, ask your guardian angel, their guardian angel, kind of to help set that up and make it possible. The second thing is, you really have to be good at asking questions and seeing what's really the cause of their leaving. Because
Mhm.
sometimes we just start assuming it's this, that, or the other thing without taking the time to really listen to what their story is. And so I think we have to be really good at listening, and not just even going with the first, oh, okay, why'd you leave? Reason number one.
Mhm.
Okay. Was there anything else? Reason number two.
Mhm.
Because usually it's buried. Like, sometimes they'll want
Yes.
to give the politically correct answer, but maybe something
Mhm.
deeper. So those are my,
Yeah.
those are my advice on all the different scenarios that could come up.
Yeah. Okay, maybe it's just me, but I don't think so. I am someone who cannot walk past a Bath and Body Works without getting an instant headache. Like, I have to actually cross to the other side of the mall and hold my breath while I walk by. It's the worst. And for the longest time, I just assumed that meant fragrance wasn't for me, which honestly was a tragedy because I desperately wanted a home that smelled warm and beautiful and cozy and looked all Instagram cute. But then I found Salt and Light by Sammy, and everything changed. Every single thing they make, from their candles to their reed diffusers to their perfumes and colognes, is made with toxin free fragrance, completely free from carcinogens and phthalates. And I cannot tell you what a difference that makes for someone like me. I can burn a candle for an entire evening, and I wear their perfume all day, and I can have my girls sitting right next to me and not spend 1 second worrying about what we're all absorbing. And it genuinely smells incredible. Salt and Light was also founded by the kids of regenerative farmers and herbalists, so the care about what goes into their products goes all the way down to the roots, and you can really feel that difference. You can use code CatholicWoman for a discount at saltandlightbysammy.com. The link will be in the show notes. And honestly, their perfume, I have worn perfume for the first time in probably a decade because it doesn't give me a headache, but it smells like a beautiful Victoria's Secret bombshell, and I just love it. So, code Catholic Woman at Salt and Light by Sammy, SAMI.com. Link in the show notes. I talk to so many women who genuinely want a deeper relationship with Our Lady, but every time they try to do a Marian consecration, they pick up the book, get completely overwhelmed by page 10, and then quietly put it back down, which guilty as charged. I was absolutely that woman too, and so if that's you, I want you to know I see you and I have something for you. I love Mary and the Saints so much because everything they make is built around the idea that this should be accessible and beautiful and something you can actually do. Their consecration books are woven throughout with saints and their own personal Marian devotions, so it feels less like a spiritual checklist and more like you're being accompanied by people who deeply loved her and want to show you what that looked like in their real lives. And it's manageable. It's just genuinely manageable to follow. They also have the most gorgeous children's books for Advent and Lent, a First Communion novena, a marriage novena book featuring daily prayers by St. Jose Maria Escrivá, and the stories of 9 couples either canonized or on their way, which is just such a gift for any married woman who wants to bring more intentional prayer into her marriage. And also, yes, the apparel is precious. Little prayers from the consecration books on the softest tees and sweatshirts. I have one that says, Mary, lend me your heart, because as a mom, that is a prayer I say 5 million times a day. And I absolutely love the shirt. It's my go-to shirt. It's pink and adorable. But the books are seriously where I'd tell every woman to start. You can use the code CWP15 for 15% off at maryandthesaints.com and go meet the mother who has been lovingly waiting for you. That's code CWP15 at maryandthesaints.com. At the beginning of this year, I gave up alcohol cold turkey completely as my New Year's resolution, and I was genuinely caught off guard by how hard the first few weeks were. Not because I had an alcohol problem, but because I had a habit. A couple of nights a week, without even really thinking about it, my hand would just reach for a glass. And when I took that away, I realized how automatic it had become. And once I noticed that, I couldn't unnotice it. And I think so many of us are living somewhere in that space. Maybe it's that the kids go to bed and a glass of wine has just kind of become your signal that the day is finally over and that's you time. Or maybe you've noticed that every single social gathering revolves around drinking and saying no just feels like a whole thing. Or maybe it hasn't even risen to the level of concern yet, but there's just this quiet sense that it's becoming a little more automatic than you'd like. That's exactly who Christy at the Catholic Sobriety Coach built Soberish Summer for. She doesn't just tell you to stop, she helps you understand what is actually driving it. And she roots the whole thing in your identity as a daughter of God, which is honestly the piece that actually changes something. Weekly teaching, group coaching calls, a workbook, and a private community of Catholic women doing it right alongside you. And the whole thing is $62 for 62 days. So just $1 a day. And you can jump in at any time in the summer whenever you're ready. And this challenge isn't about giving up alcohol forever, unless that's what you want. Most women do this challenge and just want to feel free from the habit, and Christy shows you exactly how to do that. So head to thecatholicsobrietycoach.com to grab your spot, and I'll put the link in the show notes. Truly, it has been such an eye-opener how much of a habit drinking had become in my life, and I'm so glad to have broken free from that. You should too. Go ahead to thecatholicsobrietycoach.com to join Soberish Summer. So I want to get into your pillars, but you said something about digging deeper. And I know that I'm just thinking of situations in my life of family members or friends, those close people who you say talking to isn't really the best way to convert, who when we've asked, why have you left? It's been a reason like, oh, they were collecting money, or, well, my kid didn't like going, so I didn't like, we just left. And I'm like, they never really give an answer beyond that. And I don't know how to dig beyond that. So do you have any, I don't know, suggestions or advice on when you've been given those superficial reasons by close family members of why they left the church and that's kind of that, or like the I can pray at home type thing? How do you dig beyond that to just try to get a little bit to the root of it, to have, fruitful conversations with them? Or would you just leave it at that and do the behind the scenes things?
Yeah, I would go back to prayer, right? Try to get some more insight, maybe behind the scenes first, like, okay, to pray about it, because I don't know, depending on who the person is, right? It's so hard, but it could be they're just like trying to kind of gently blow you off, like they don't want to
Mhm.
talk about it. So they're giving you this kind of like soft answer, like, okay, leave me alone, but they don't want to be rude about it.
Mhm.
So that's where I feel like prayer might be more, maybe pray a little more about it before you circle back around.
Mhm.
Um, it's just hard because it just seems like people have to be open. And that's where the
Mhm.
prayer comes in, you know what I mean? Like it has to really be the right time.
Mhm.
And I have another friend who, came back to the faith. She was gone 20 years.
Mhm.
And, she's like, oh, my sister was constantly sending me books and things. And she's like, I never read it. I never read
Mhm.
it. It wasn't until God spoke to me directly. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
so it's hard. Now, if
Yeah.
they're more open about it, then yeah, like that's where we need to know our faith. Cause I know somebody else who came back to the faith and her mom, kind of did the no speaking thing. And it wasn't. Then the daughter, when she was open, she started asking her mom questions. And then her
Mhm.
mom was ready to discuss it. So, I don't know, it's hard, every situation is
Mhm.
different. I would just really pray about it and then, do some form of fasting too,
Mhm.
but if you've tried a couple times and they kinda give you the brush off, I would take that as a sign. To me, it's more important to maintain a relationship with the person,
Mhm.
and so that you can at least have the influence. They can see the joy in your heart, they can see the love, they can see the life you live, and
Mhm.
when they're ready, they can as long as you don't break that relationship, because if you're pushing too hard and then they just
Mhm.
are like, "Okay, I'm gonna stop talking to you,"
Yeah.
or avoid
Yeah.
you. So if you're still in relationship with them, when the Holy Spirit speaks to them or their guardian angel, then they can come to you and they'll feel comfortable coming to you and asking the questions.
Mm. That's a good
Yeah.
point. Now, before I have another tangent question I
Yes.
want to
Yeah,
ask,
sure. Of course.
before we
Anything.
go into the pillars, I also know that sometimes these people, they will only go to church for someone. Like, they will go to church with their mom or with their grandma, but, like, they have no care for church otherwise. And, there have been times where we've said, like, please come to church with us, or grandma's coming to church or whatever. It's like, come to church, but you're really not supposed to receive the Eucharist. Like, you can stay in the pew or you can cross your arms, but just please be here, but just please don't do that. And they blatantly don't listen and just go up and receive the Eucharist too. Is there anything you can do in those situations, or like, how do you better educate people? Because it hurts my heart to see that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so hard. Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
hard one. You know, and I've listened to a lot of Father Mike Schmitz, and he was like, you gotta tell them,
Mhm.
you have to tell them. And
Yes.
like you said, like, it's like, and a lot of, I feel like a lot of Catholics, fallen away Catholics do know that they're not supposed to go. Like, I feel like that's pretty basic, but maybe it's not,
Mhm.
maybe they just really don't know. It's be like,
Mhm.
you know, um, of course we want you there, right? Of course we
Mhm.
want you to be there. However, just to make, so we believe that's Jesus' body and blood, soul and divinity, like
Mhm.
that's what we believe, and that's what it is.
Mhm.
And because of that, since you haven't been to mass in a while, you really shouldn't receive unless you truly believe it. But even still,
Mhm.
like, it's like, if
Yeah.
why would you even want to? Why
Mhm.
would you want to believe if why would you want to receive it if you don't believe that's what it is? So
Right.
you could even ask that question too. But yeah, I think it's good to educate them. I mean, you don't have to go too deep into it because, right, in the Bible it says you bring condemnation on yourself. I wouldn't go that route, but I would
Yeah.
just be like, this is really important to us as Catholics, and it just is in your best interest not to receive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then when people, you say that, or you have these conversations with people, whether it's about the Eucharist or something else, and they're just blatantly like, I don't care, I'm doing it anyway, or I'm ignoring you, or whatever, and it like stings. How do you deal with that rejection sting?
Yeah. More prayer. Well, that's
Yeah.
something you can offer up. That's something you can
That's a
definitely
good
offer
one.
up.
Okay.
You know what I mean? To be like, okay, Lord, I'm trying, right? I'm trying.
Mhm.
And we know what the apostles went through and all the early, well, many even still today, right? Suffering
Mhm.
beyond that martyrdom. So it's a little martyrdom, to offer up, to kind of put in your crown in heaven, um, and just be like, well, that does remind me of one of the stories. Actually, I was going to say, I did have a situation where I was with a priest, and not regarding this apostolate, some other work I was
Mhm.
doing. But anyway, and he said some pretty brutal things to me that I was just really hurt by.
Mm.
And then I went to another priest, and I'm like, oh, Father, I don't know what to do. Like, this priest really hurt me.
Mhm.
And, but this can be used in any situation. But like this,
Mhm.
like what you're saying, like he told me, and this like changed my life. Like he was like, okay, take, priest so and so, Father so and so to the foot of the cross, and just
Mhm.
pray, Father, forgive him. He knows not what he does. And he's like, pray that, like, just really see the whole scene. Put yourself and him
Mhm.
right there and pray that slowly 10 times or until you feel God's peace. And it was the most amazing experience I've ever felt. Like, it
Wow.
really did clear that. And like, I saw that
Wow.
priest later. I didn't have any angst towards him or anger. So that's one of those things. Yeah, Father, forgive them because they really don't know what they are doing.
Mhm.
Because I truly believe if if people knew what they were leaving behind, they wouldn't leave. Like
Mhm.
there's some poor education or poor catechesis. They just don't know it. And so we
Mhm.
can forgive them, right? Like, okay, they don't know what they're doing. And same can
Mhm.
be for like, you know, if anyone's like their children, their adult children have left the church, that can be so painful. And we have to forgive them. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of falls under like um my love pillar, just that, is that forgiveness, because, we have to forgive. So that's what I would
Mm.
say for that. Yeah.
Wow, that's really helpful. I'm eager to try that in the next situation in life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
talk to me about your pillars. You just mentioned your love pillar. Tell me a little bit more about those.
Yeah, yeah. So it just like I said, after reading, I was like, okay, these kind of fall into these four categories, but at the same time, they all overlap as well. But trust, pray, sacrifice, love. Okay. So trust, the diary of St. Faustina, right? She just talks about, she and Jesus talk about trust so much. And so I've gotten so many different quotes from trusting in the Lord and just different things like that. Of course, Jesus, I trust in you. That's, divine mercy image, right? So that, because we have to, like, especially in the apostolate, the work that I do, I really call people to trust, to let Jesus take care of it, let the Holy Spirit
Mhm.
work and find that opening. And that's why I pray a lot, find the opening that's going to get them to wake up. And I
Mhm.
do pray that it's not, that they be gentle, like they're not on their
Yes.
deathbed, having a
Yes.
conversion. Those are good. But if they're a younger person, you kind of want it to be sooner, but,
Yeah, yeah.
and like not too painful, but, pray. Okay, so then I always recommend the rosary as a great starting point because as St. Louis de Montfort, right, huge proponent of the rosary, said that there's many saints have promoted the rosary, but he
Mhm.
says it does have the power to convert the most hardened sinners. Okay,
Mm.
and that's what we're wanting, right, to get
Yep.
these conversions. And then there are other prayers too, of course, but sacrifice, we kind of talked about that already, but like people, if you're not sure what to sacrifice for, first of all, you can do a morning offering, right? So that your whole day is offered to Jesus through the Blessed Mother. So
Mhm.
that's a great way to sacrifice, even if you're just living your life. Cause I know you have busy moms that listen to this, they're
Mhm.
like, I'm already managing all
Yeah.
these kids and feeding them. It's like, that's all I can do. Fine.
Yep.
Just offer it all up in the morning.
Mhm.
And then love, right? I think this will be my guiding principle. I just keep coming back to loving. But St. John of the Cross, he said, in the evening of our life, we will be judged on love alone. I was just like, oh,
Mm.
I was writing a card to some graduates and I was like, I believe if you live your life by this one guiding principle, you will never make a bad decision. If
Mhm.
everything, if you can decide
Yes.
everything that's on the, we sometimes forget,
Yeah.
but, but yeah, like, so the love and like that, that can be hard because some of these people are very far away. Well, first of all, some of them, I have so many parents who their children are estranged, adult children, and
Mm.
that's hard. But, we just have to try and just forgive them. And I think, just trying our best to love them where they are, which can be
Mhm.
very hard in different situations. So, yeah, so those are kind of the short story of the 4 pillars.
Hey, before we jump back in, if you have not signed up yet for the presence text, I really need you to do that today because I created this thing and I'm still a little bit obsessed with it myself. Here's the deal. You and I both know that we can listen to an incredible podcast episode or read the most beautiful thing and feel completely moved by it. But then when we walk back into our lives and our kids need something or dinner needs to happen, that feeling is just gone. And what I kept thinking was that what we actually need isn't more content to consume. It's something that finds us inside the ordinary moments we're already living in and just reminds us to be present for them. So, 3 times a week, I send a short text right to your phone, not an email, not a notification, just a text that drops into your real day and gently reorients you toward what actually matters. That's the whole thing. And I think it works precisely because it meets you where you already are. The first month is completely free with code CWP, and then it's just $5 a month, you guys, just $5. And you can cancel at any time, no questions asked. So go to catholicwoman.co/presence. The link will be in the show notes, but that's catholicwoman.co/presence and use the code CWP to make it free. I can't wait to see you inside. I absolutely love this. It has changed my life, and I can't wait to hopefully change yours too. I love that. And I really love that you include trust in there because love and sacrifice and prayer are all things we do. And trust is too, but without the trust, we'll think it's our works. Not necessarily, but you know what I'm saying? Like without that trust aspect, you can kind of leave God out of it. Like, well, look at what I did to bring them back. And it's like, no, it is all him. He is the one who is fully in control of it. And we may never see our fruits in this life. And, we hope it's not a deathbed conversion, but we know that happens. And we know there are people like we don't know what happens. Between when someone's heart stops beating and when they meet Jesus, like they could have a full encounter with him right then and there. And we don't know that. So without the trust piece, I'm sure this can feel very, one, prideful, or two, disheartening. So I absolutely love that you include that. What has been in your journey the hardest part about praying for our prodigals or, watching not just the people in your life, but the other women and, men and people you work with through your apostolate go through? Like, has there been a moment where you're like, wow, this is really, really tough. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know how they're going to get through this. Has there been a moment like that for you?
Well, I mean, for me, probably it all worked out, thanks be to God. But yeah, our oldest daughter left the church. She gave me permission to share her story in brief. And she and her husband was kind of falling away too, but
Hmm.
or at the time they were boyfriend girlfriend. Anyway, we seek some advice, and this priest told us to me and my husband to pray 4 rosaries a day, which
Wow.
we weren't even praying one at the
Hmm.
time. So that was a real
It's a big
commitment.
shift.
But yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yes. But we did it. They weren't perfect rosaries. They weren't in front of the the Blessed Sacrament. They were
Hmm.
like on the go, dishes, running, whatever.
Hmm.
But thanks be to God, they got engaged and they did get married in the church. And this is the thing, like, and it's so hard because it's like, I don't want to be like, oh, it was all about us, right? Because it wasn't.
Hmm.
But we were told, a priest advised us, and we did our best to follow his advice and be obedient to what he recommended, right?
Hmm.
And back to that, participating with their conversion. Well, when they got engaged, then I followed my, I was like, okay, I'm not going to say anything. We're just let's see how this plays out.
Hmm.
And lo and behold, three different people encouraged without me or my husband, three different people encouraged them to get married in the church. And
Wow.
two of them weren't even Catholic. So it's
Really?
like,
Wow.
so, it's
That's
like,
crazy.
it's so crazy. It's so crazy. And I do hear stories like that, but that was so hard because
Hmm.
it's like you have this whole spectrum of like, do I attend the wedding or not? Like you hear some
Hmm.
Catholics say you shouldn't attend non-Catholic weddings or whatever. And it's
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, like, and just thanks be to God, I'm so glad because I had a friend going through the same question
Ugh.
with his daughter. And
Hmm.
I was so grateful that, God spared me from having to make that decision and that
Yeah.
they did get married in the church. So grateful.
Yeah.
But that was really hard, right? Because you're like on pins and
Hmm.
needle, like what's going to happen? Um,
Hmm.
but I do get a lot of emails like from older women. I got one this past week. It's just heart-wrenching because she's like, I'm old and I haven't seen any of my kids come back and who's going to pray for them when I die? And, like, oh, that's hard.
Mm,
That's
that
hard.
is.
And then so many, like I said, so many estranged children. Parents have done their
Hmm.
best to raise them, love them,
Hmm.
and then I don't know what it is about our current society, but there is a whole, I think, genre of
Hmm.
TikTokers, I don't know, that
Yeah. The
encourage
whole
this
like no
separation.
contact. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so painful.
Hmm.
10 and 12 years of no contact with their own flesh and blood. That's got to be
Hmm.
so hard. So hard. It's
Yeah.
almost like you have to just think they're dead. I mean, I feel like.
Right. Right.
But
I
then you
can't
have to have the
imagine.
hope that they'll come back. So it's like,
Hmm.
oh,
Yes.
so that's so hard. And I'm so grateful that I was spared that
Yeah.
because I just don't. And I don't really talk too much about the estrangement thing. Once again, that's not my lane. There are people out there that do, but I do, and I do
Hmm.
see it, and I do suffer with those moms because I just can't imagine
Hmm.
how painful. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, I'm just getting this from you seem like a very gentle soul from our conversation. And I don't know if that's true, but I am very quick tempered. I am very hot headed, quite the opposite of that. I really, really have to work on the virtues of patience and kindness and gentleness myself. So there's situations where there are people in our lives who are fallen away Catholics, but actually it's more so the parents fell away and when they were really little kids and like they've grown up kind of just like, not anything. Really, they say they're Catholic, but they're not. And now as they're like reaching adulthood and, going to start getting married and having families, I want to be a good witness to these people, but at the same time, I have a hard time balancing living a beautiful life and being a good witness while also holding the line on not supporting poor behaviors like cohabitation or things like that. So, how do you toe the line of having these good relationships, living a great example, but also not just being like, yeah, whatever you want to do, I'm here for you. Like we're not called to do that either.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, of course, the first person who came to my mind when you said hot-tempered is St. Louis de Montfort, right? Do you know his story? He was
A little
hot-tempered and
bit.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you could read a little bit about him in 33 Days to Morning Glory. Father Gately, Michael Gately talks about St. Louis de Montfort, and of course he has other writings too, but
Mhm.
he was very hot-tempered and he had to kind of redirect,
Yes.
into the right areas. Um, but yeah, that's hard, right? Because once again, it's like, okay, yeah, what is that? In the Bible, right? We're called to, we're encouraged to call people out for what they're doing
Mhm.
wrong, and so then it's like, what is the balance there? And that is really hard.
Mhm.
Um, I think too, once again, it kind of comes back to the relationship. You know what I mean? Like there's that saying, people don't care what you know unless they know you care. So
Mhm.
if it's like, for us, we don't see our, because we have nieces and nephews who are in this situation, like you said,
Mhm.
they're getting married. They're kind of not raised so much Catholic, getting married,
Mhm.
not baptizing their kids. Um, but we're not really in good relationship with them because we don't live near them. It's not that
Mhm.
we are estranged per se, but it's
Right.
just,
You
everyone's
just
got their
because of
life.
time. Yeah.
Distance, yeah, yeah, and um, so I think you have to be you try if it's maybe try to focus on, like, 1 or 2, 3 people, like, that you feel like, "Okay, I'm close to this person," or, "I wanna get closer to this person, and I'm gonna invite them out for coffee on a regular basis," or whatever. I think if you're feeling called, pray about it, right? Like, Lord, who would you like me to maybe evangelize or catechize a little better? Like, who would you like me to reach out to? And really be open to the Holy Spirit because it may not be the people that you think, because maybe He
Mhm.
has other plans for you to work into. So I would pray about who and discern who are the a few because we can't have so many relationships, in my opinion. Now there you hear those about saints who baptize like 100 people in one day. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah.
we're not baptizing people, but
That's
like
more
all these
miraculous,
conversions.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for us, it's like, okay, what can I manage in my state of life? Like, what does
Mhm.
how many am I married? Do I have kids? How many people can I handle? And who are those people that you want me to reach out to? And then pray about it and pray about it, pray about it. One thing I will say about the prayer, yeah, this is from the diary too, is that I think is so strong and powerful is Jesus told Saint Faustina, when you pray this prayer, it will convert souls, and it's the "O blood and water which gush forth from souls as a
Yeah.
fount of mercy for us. I trust in you." He promised it. He's not a liar. He'll do it.
Mhm.
And what I was doing for a specific person was at the consecration at Mass when they elevate the precious blood. I don't know where I learned this or thought of it or how it came to
Mhm.
me, but when the priest raises the precious blood, I'll pray like, okay, I'm already kind of thinking about it before it happens, right? But it's like, okay, Jesus, you told Saint Faustina that this prayer will convert souls, and I'm praying for the conversion of this person, oh, blood, and
Mhm.
then I'll pray it 3 times, and because that means I really want it,
Mhm.
not that three
Yes.
times is some magic number, but it's like, yeah, like I'm, it's
Yeah.
kind of like holy, 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 like
Mhm.
sometimes we pray stuff 3 times,
Yes.
and I I was praying for that one specific person. He's back. Thanks be to God.
Wow.
So it's like,
Mhm.
so I once again, like, they're not magic. I don't want people to think that, or it's not about me. Like, I always want to make that clear. But I'm just trying to pick up these promises that Jesus told us that will convert
Mhm.
souls. And then I tried my best to cooperate with that and to do what he said.
Yeah.
That's kind of, yeah. Does that
That's
help?
beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
just all these little things that we can do, you know?
Mhm. Well, and I like how you said, I'm trying to pick up these promises Jesus already gave us. I think that's what a lot of us are missing. We don't all have time to scan through all the different, um, the different readings and the different books and the different, all of these things that are out there. There's so many. So you're doing a fantastic job of like going through everything, seeing what Jesus said that's specifically in relation to conversion of souls, and you're compiling it. So you're like, right here, this is what we have, this is what we can use. And I love that. So
Sure.
if there is one thing you can leave our listeners with today, because again, I know every single person is touched by this in some way, what would that be?
Yeah. Oh, geez, so many good things. But I think
I
I
know.
just really want, like, picking your favorite child. You
I
just
know,
can't.
it's so
But
hard.
no, I just really want people to know that, like, nothing is ever wasted, right? Like, just loving this person where they are, that in itself that's, love is just like nothing's ever wasted, right? Nothing's wasted in God's economy. And even if you're not seeing anything, God is still there. And we just have to trust that in due time, like he's going to make it happen. And we just have to keep trusting, trusting, trusting. So that's really my one advice is just like, trust in the Lord. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And as someone who does not have a lot of patience, that is important for me to hear. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I really appreciate this conversation today. Where can everybody find you if they want to connect further or work with you in another capacity?
Yeah, thanks. So the only place is on my website. I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes, but
Yes.
prayingforourprodigals.com. If you go ahead and sign up for the email list, you'll get one email every Friday. Every great now and then I have to send out a second email a week, but I'm pretty strict about my once a week Fridays. And then you'll get a free download when you sign up that does cover the 4 pillars, in brief, a kind of
Hmm.
summary of different things there. And then, I don't actually, this probably won't air in time for June because we're going to do the Holy Cloak of St. Joseph. It's a 30-day novena.
Oh, wow. No,
We're,
this will come out in the beginning of July.
yeah. So, but it's still a good novena. If you want to
Yes.
do it, it's 30 days. It's very, very good. Um, but yeah, that's where people can meet me on the website because I don't do any other social media. So
Yeah. Well, I love that. Kristine, thank you so much for being here. I really hope this conversation will bring hundreds and thousands of people back to Christ through the women
same.
who are listening and the efforts they put in. So thank you so much for being here today. And also thank you so much to the show's sponsors, Salt and Life by Sammy, Mary and the Saints, and the Catholic Sobriety Coach. Ladies, please share this episode with someone. This one is one of the most powerful because it brings you tangible ways that we can actually bring souls back into the church and back to Christ. So please share this with 5 people today and spread the conversion and reversion joy all around. And thank you so much for being here. I will see you all again in 2 weeks.